The desert wind wailed across the empty flats, carrying the taste of grit and the warning of another blistering day. Before we kick off this adventure, don't forget to hit like on the video and let us know in the comments where you're watching from. Red earth split open under a pitiless sun stretching toward saw-toothed ridges like the broken edge of an old knife. As dusk crept in, the sky bled red and orange, splashing the lonely land with colors fierce enough to burn. Cole Hart stood at the fence line of his spread, watching daylight die behind those merciless hills. 32, but already marked by more hard years than most men twice his age, he gripped the rough cedar post until his sun-browned knuckles whitened. The ranch lay quiet before him, plain by frontier measure, yet his in every nail and board. 20 head of cattle, a dozen horses, and a weather-leaning barn he and his kin had raised with bare hands. Now only wooden crosses behind the house told of his father Grant Boone, his mother Lila Boone, and his younger brother Cole Briggs, all taken by cholera 3 winters back. Lila's heart had given out soon after. Cole had buried her alone, the preacher long gone with half the surviving town. The livestock shifted uneasily, sensing trouble in the rising wind. Northward black clouds muscled across the sky, their bellies flickering with hidden fire. Cole had seen storms enough, yet something in this one made his jaw tighten. He strode toward the barn boots, crunching on the cracked ground. His prized black Mustang tossed its head and pawed the dirt. "Easy midnight," he murmured, running a calloused palm along the stallion's neck, just a blow rolling in. Thunder cracked so suddenly even he flinched. Fat drops splattered the dust, then turned into a driving sheet of rain. The wind slammed the barn so hard it groaned like an old ship at sea. Cole worked fast, latching stalls, covering feed, stowing anything the gale might turn into a weapon. He was about to make for the house when faint voices cut through the roar. Instinct snapped his hand to the Colt .45 at his hip. Nobody traveled in weather like this, unless desperation drove them. The door burst open. 3 figures staggered in, drenched and gasping. Women. Cole eased his grip on the gun, but didn't let go. By lantern glow, he saw they were sisters. The eldest, late 20s, dark hair plastered to her head. Sharp green eyes planted herself in front of the others, chin lifted despite her sodden dress, once blue or gray, now mud-stained and torn. "Please," she said steadily, teeth chattering. "We need shelter from the storm. We mean no harm." The second sister, maybe 25, pushed damp auburn curls from her face. Softer features but wild eyes like an unbroken mare. Her patched dress had lost more than one button. The youngest, barely 20, shared the eldest's green eyes, but none of her steel. She clung to her sister's arm, shivering in a pale blue dress that hung like a shadow. Everything about them warned of trouble. Their ragged clothes, the hollow weariness in their stance, the way the eldest kept scanning the door as if someone hunted them. Still, frontier law was plain. You didn't turn folks away to die in a storm. "There's dry hay in the loft," Cole said, at last, jerking his head toward the ladder. "Ride it out up there." Relief flickered across the eldest's face. "Thank you. We're grateful. Name's Cole Hart. This is my place." His tone made it more a statement than a question. The sisters traded a look. The eldest drew herself up. "I'm Belle Rowan. These are my sisters Ruby Lane and June Pike." Cole caught the slight pause, the way Belle's eyes slid from his. Likely not their real names, but on the frontier plenty of folks left old identities behind. "There's a pump out back," Cole said. "I'll fetch blankets." "That's kind of you." "But," Belle began. Not asking, he cut in. "You'll freeze if you stay in those wet clothes." He jogged through the downpour to the house, gathered blankets, his mother's medicine box, and after a thought, bread and dried beef. Whoever these women were, they looked half-starved. When he returned, they were huddled in the far corner of the barn. June's silent tears streaked her rain-damp face, while Ruby held her close and Belle kept watch. Ruby held June close, whispering words Hart couldn't catch. Belle Rowan stood a few paces off, sharp eyes fixed on every shadow. Cole set the blankets and food down where they could reach without feeling cornered. "There's supper there too," he said. Belle's brows lifted, the wariness in her face deepening. "We can't." "You can, and you will." Cole answered firm as seasoned oak. "I've got plenty." Ruby finally met his gaze, something sparking in her tired eyes that he couldn't quite read. "Think you can handle us all?" she asked, half teasing, half defiant. 3 drenched strangers in his barn, and yet her challenge sent a surprising heat up his neck. "I reckon I can manage," he said evenly. Thunder cracked like cannon fire, making June flinch. The storm pressed harder, rattling the big doors. Cole strode over and barred them tight. That's when he noticed Belle's knuckles raw and bloody, like she'd fought hard before coming here. "You'll stay the night," he said before thinking. "A blow like this won't quit before morning." Belle hesitated, then gave a short nod. "We'll be gone at first light." Cole heard the lie in her steady voice. They wouldn't get far without food or rest. He climbed the ladder, checked that the loft boards were sound and the roof tight. When he came back, the 3 were already wrapped in blankets, sharing the food like starving birds trying not to show it. "I'll be in the house," he told them. "If you need anything, call out," Mr. Hart Bell said as he reached the door. He turned. In the flickering lamplight, with rain hammering the roof, they looked like spirits adrift, pale, worn, bound together by sheer will. "Thank you," she said simply. Cole tipped his head and stepped into the gale. Back in his cabin, he fed the fire, but sleep never came. Each time he shut his eyes, he saw Belle's torn hands, Ruby's fierce spark, June's silent tears. He'd built his life on minding his own business, yet something about these sisters had already cracked that hard shell. Outside, the wind screamed, threatening to rip the roof clean away. Cole sat by the window with his rifle across his lap, eyes fixed on the barn. Whatever hunted those women, he knew it would come. And when it did, he'd have to choose stay hidden behind his fences or stand in harm's way for them. Lightning split the night wide open, and deep down he knew the choice was already made. Dawn came harsh and bright, the sky scrubbed clean. Cole stepped into red mud where dry dust had been surveying flattened grass and tilted fence posts. But the barn still stood. Inside, the sisters were already awake. Calming skittish horses. Belle's sleeves were rolled, showing fresh bruises as she brushed a nervous mare. Ruby mucked out stalls with sure, quick strokes. June spoke softly to each animal as she scattered feed. "You know horses," Cole remarked, more statement than question. Belle looked up, weary but steady. "We grew up around them. Not many women handle a pitchfork like that," he said, nodding toward Ruby. Ruby met his eyes, the corner of her mouth lifting in that familiar dare. "Not many women have to." She shot back, then went on pitching with sharp, practiced moves. Cole joined in, matching their rhythm. They worked in companionable silence, the kind born of shared labor. The rising sun turned mud into sticky clay that clung to boots. He noticed June struggling with a heavy water pail and moved to help, but Ruby beat him to it gently, scolding her sister. "She's not built for this kind of work," Belle said quietly, suddenly beside him. "I mean, June, she's delicate." Cole studied the youngest. Beyond her slight frame, there was a tremor she tried to hide, a startle at every sudden sound. "She's holding her own," he said. Belle's mouth tightened. She shouldn't have to, By noon the barn was sturdier than before the storm. Cole couldn't help admiring their grit, even June, for all her frailty, hadn't uttered a word of complaint. "You'll stay for dinner," he said when the work was done, making it sound like fact. "We've already imposed," Belle began, but Ruby cut her off with a hungry grin. "We're starving, Maggie," she teased, earning a sharp look from her sister, but no denial. Cole gestured toward the house. "Pump's out back. Wash up first." He went ahead setting beans, salt pork, and sprouting potatoes on the counter. It wasn't fancy, but it would fill empty stomachs. He was slicing potatoes when the sisters stepped into the doorway, hesitant. "Come on in," he said without looking up, a voice, warm but sure. "Sit," Cole Hart said, stepping aside so they could enter. They filed in, eyes sweeping the plain interior. The house was one big room of kitchen and sitting space, with a door on the left to Cole's own quarters, and another to the right, his parents' room, left untouched since Lila Boone's passing. Everything inside was sturdy and hand-built, built for use, not show. June. Pike's gaze lingered on a small shelf of books by the window. "You read?" she asked, her voice clear and soft, the first full sentence he'd heard from her. "When I can," Cole replied. "Help yourself if you'd like." A light sparked in her eyes, the first true smile he'd seen from any of them. It changed her face completely, revealing the young woman beneath the strain. "Thank you," she breathed, moving toward the shelf as if it were a treasure chest. "June loves books," Ruby Lane said with a tired grin, easing into a chair. "Used to read us to sleep every night when we were little, before Belle Rowan cut in sharply, then stopped cold." Cole kept his focus on the skillet, but every word hit his ears. "Before what? Before they started running." "Smells good," Ruby said quickly, steering the talk away. She slipped off her boots and rubbed at her sore feet. Cole noticed raw blisters, some already bleeding. "There's salve in that box on the shelf," he said, pointing to his mother's medicine tin. "Use it." Ruby found the salve and worked on her feet with brisk efficiency. Belle, meanwhile, stood sentinel at the window eyes on the yard. Only June seemed at ease, already lost in one of Cole's books. "You expecting trouble?" Cole asked quietly. "No." Belle's shoulders tightened, but she didn't look away. "You're a poor liar," he said, voice steady. That brought her around, green eyes sparking. "And you're too trusting, taking in 3 strangers, feeding us, lending books. Most men would want something back. I'm not most men." "No," she said slowly, studying him. "I'm beginning to see that." Cole dished up beans and salt pork. They ate in near silence, but he saw how Belle made sure her sisters were fed before taking a bite, how Ruby's hand kept finding June's arm as if to prove she was safe. Whatever else bound them, family came first. "There's a town about 2 days east," Cole said once the plates were cleared. "Millfield. The sheriff there is fair. If you're in some sort of trouble—" "No law," Belle snapped too quickly. "I mean, we just need to keep moving. Find work, start over. What kind of work? We can cook, clean, mend," Belle answered carefully. "Honest work. Ruby knows horses better than most men," June added, earning a warning glance. "And you, Cole," asked June. "I can teach reading, writing, arithmetic," she said softly. "I used to give lessons." Used to. The shape of their story was becoming clear, even without details. "I could use help here," Cole said, leaning back. "The storm did more damage than the barn. Fences need mending, garden needs replanting, horses need tending. Can't pay much, but you'd have room and board." Belle's hands gripped the table edge until her knuckles whitened. Why Cole rose and began stacking dishes. "This ranch is too much for one man. I've been thinking of hiring help anyway." It was a gentle lie, and all of them knew it, but it saved pride. "We can't," Belle said at last. "It's not safe for you. Let me decide what's safe for me." Ruby pushed back her chair, scraping wood on wood. "Maggie, we need to talk." She caught Belle's arm and tugged her outside. "June, stay put." Through the window, Cole watched them argue. Belle's gestures were sharp, Ruby's stance defiant. "They're trying to protect you," June said softly, her slender fingers worrying a tear in her dress. "From us? From what follows us?" Cole sat back across from her. Up close, he saw the dark circles under her eyes, the drawn lines of hunger and fear. "What does follow you?" June lifted her gaze, and for a heartbeat she looked older than her years. "Evil," she said simply, "the kind that wears a respectable face and owns half the county." Before he could answer, Belle and Ruby returned. Ruby's cheeks were flushed, Belle's expression carved from stone. "3 days," Belle said. "We'll work 3 days, help repair the storm damage, then we move on." Cole nodded. Certain 3 days would stretch longer. These women were spent and needed time to heal. "The barn's dry," he said, "but there's a spare room, my parents' old room, you can use." Belle opened her mouth, but Ruby stepped in. "We'll take it, thank you." That afternoon they worked side by side, clearing fallen branches and broken boards. Cole learned their rhythms. Belle ever watchful, Ruby bold and quick to laugh, June steady in quiet ways. As the sun sank in a blaze of gold and crimson, Cole leaned against the same fence post as the night before. Only now the house behind him rang with life. Ruby's laughter at something June read aloud, Belle's warm scolding. For the first time in 3 long years, the ranch didn't feel empty. And for the first time since laying his family to rest, Cole Hart felt the old fear stir, not of men with guns, but of what it meant to let these women into the quiet heart of his life. Cole Hart feared how fast these 3 women were filling the quiet gaps of his life, and how deep the ache would run when they finally rode on. The night breeze rose laced with sage and the restless scent of change. He gripped the fence post, every instinct warning him something was on its way. He sensed it in his bones, read it in Belle Rowan's guarded eyes, heard it in the pauses of their careful speech. 3 days, she'd said. Cole had a hunch those might prove the longest 3 days he'd ever face. A fat silver moon hung over the ranch, throwing long shadows across the yard. Cole sat on the porch, carving a scrap of pine, but hardly seeing it. Coyotes yipped in the distance. Crickets kept time. Small things rustled in the brush. From the barn came low, urgent voices, the sisters talking. He'd given them space after supper, figuring they needed it. Yet worry and curiosity drew him out. Not to snoop, he told himself, just to stand guard. He eased onto an old crate by the barn door, far enough to grant privacy, but close enough to hear if danger came. "Can't keep running forever," Ruby Lane said, her voice carrying in the stillness. "We're spent, Maggie. June can barely keep food down, and you haven't slept in weeks. And what would you have me do?" Belle's reply was taut with frustration. "Wait for him to find us. You know what he'll do. Maybe we should have stayed and fought, June." "Pike," he said, surprising them both. "Fought who? Told who?" Belle's bitter laugh cut the night. "Marshal Zane Porter. He's in Wade Cross's pocket. Judge Eli Frost bought and paid for. Face it, June." There was no one to tell. Wade Cross. Cole fixed the name in his mind. So their hunter had a face. "That's not what I meant," June said softly. "I meant maybe we should have told someone what really happened that night about Mother." Silence thickened with grief. Cole caught himself holding his breath, the knife still in his hand. "Telling wouldn't bring her back," Belle said at last. "And it would have gotten us killed beside her." "We should tell him," Ruby burst out. "Cole deserves to know what he's risking." "No," Belle's answer was sharp. "The less he knows, the safer he is." "You think Wade Cross cares?" Ruby shot back. "Think he'll just tip his hat and ride on when he learns we've been here." You've seen what he does to anyone who helps us. That's why we leave. Tomorrow. You said 3 days. I lied. Cole heard pacing feet in the straw. I'm tired of running, Ruby said, her voice fierce. Tired of looking over my shoulder, of jumping at every sound. And I'm tired of watching you carry this alone. Maggie, I can shoot as well as you. Better maybe. And June's stronger than you think. I know exactly how strong June is, Belle said quietly. I was there when Wade... Don't. June's voice cracked sharp. Don't talk about it. Not yet. More silence. Cole shifted and his boot scraped against the crate. The barn went dead still. Who's there? Belle called, and the crisp click of a hammer followed. Just me, Cole said, rising and stepping into the moonlight. Couldn't sleep. Thought I'd check the horses. The door swung open. Belle emerged with a Remington .44 leveled at him. She lowered it when she saw his face, but kept it in hand. How long have you been there? Long enough, Cole admitted. Wade Cross. That's who's after you. Belle's jaw tightened. Behind her, Ruby and June appeared, their faces pale in the silver light. You should go back to the house, Belle said. Forget what you heard. Can't do that. Cole moved closer, noting how Ruby's hand rested near the knife on her belt. All 3 of them were armed. Good. A man named Wade Cross murdered your mother and is hunting you. That about right? The sisters exchanged quick looks until Ruby spoke. Close enough? Why? Because we saw it, June whispered. And because we ran rather than let him do to us what he did to her. Cold anger settled deep in Cole's gut. He'd met men like Cross. Rich and cruel thinking power gave them claim over anyone. He forced himself on her, Belle said steadily, though her eyes shone with unshed tears. She fought, but he was stronger. When she kept fighting, he killed her, Ruby said flatly. Beat her until she didn't move. Then he told us we'd be next if we didn't give in. So we ran, June added. That very night. Took his horse and what cash we could find. He's been chasing us ever since Belle finished. 5 months now. Every town we stop in, his men follow within days. We've lived like fugitives, hiding, stealing when we had to. We're not criminals, Mr. Hart. We're just trying to stay alive. Cole looked at them in the moonlight, 3 women hardened by terror and loss, carrying the memory of Ada Hart's murder and their own narrow escape. No wonder Belle watched every shadow. No wonder June startled at every sudden sound. No wonder Ruby Lane met the world with defiance. This Wade Cross Cole Hart said, slowly testing the name. Big rancher, owns plenty of land. Half of Brackenridge County, Ruby confirmed. Maybe more now. He keeps buying folks out. Those who won't sell, he drives off. Her shrug didn't soften the meaning. Cole nodded, thinking of men he'd heard of, land barons who built empires on fear and blood. And the law. Belle Rowan's voice was bitter. Bought and paid for. Think you can handle us all? Ruby asked, suddenly echoing the challenge she'd tossed at him that first stormy night. Now he felt the weight behind it. This wasn't just sheltering 3 travelers. This was standing against a man who killed at will and carried the law in his pocket. Yes, Cole said simply. Ruby blinked, caught off guard. Just like that. My pa always said evil thrives when good men do nothing. Cole answered, I've been doing nothing for 3 years hiding out here. Maybe it's time to change that. You don't owe us a thing, Belle protested. This isn't your fight. You made it mine when you stepped into my barn, Cole replied. Besides, I've got no tolerance for men who treat women like property. June Pike moved forward as if to touch his arm, then drew back. You don't understand. Wade Cross doesn't just kill. He wipes out whole families, burns their homes, erases everything they've built. We've seen it. Then why stop here? Cole asked gently. You could have kept riding? The sisters exchanged a glance. At last, Ruby said, because we're worn out. June's sick from weeks of bad food, and Maggie Bell, she's running on pure grit, and because... She met his eyes. Because something told us you were different. I'm just a rancher, Cole said. No, Bell said quietly. You're the man who fed us, gave us work, offered your parents room without questions. That isn't nothing. A restless wind brought the smell of distant rain. Another storm brewing, Cole thought. Fitting. If Cross's riders come, he said, I need to know you won't scatter. I can't protect you if you run. We're through running, Ruby said firmly. Ruby Bell began. No, Maggie. He's right. If we run now, we'll run forever. I'd rather fight than live hunted. Hopefully it won't come to that, Cole said. How many men does Cross usually send? 4, sometimes 6? Bell answered resignation in her tone. Hard men, killers. Cole nodded. I've rifles inside and plenty of ammunition. Tomorrow we'll see how steady you are with a gun. I told you we can shoot, Ruby said. Paper targets aren't the same as men, Cole warned. We know, June said quietly. We've defended ourselves before. The truth of that hung heavy in the air. Cole pictured each close call they'd survived, each ambush they'd broken through. No wonder they moved like quarry that had fought its way free more than once. Get some real rest, he said at last. I'll stand watch tonight. You don't have to. Bell started. Yes, I do. You're under my protection now, Cole said, meeting each of their eyes. That means something out here. Ruby touched her sister's arm and guided them toward the house. Cole caught her low words. I told you he was different. Bell lingered the Remington still in her hand. Mr. Hart, Cole, what you're doing is noble. Nobility gets men killed out here. So does cowardice, he replied. Go on. Your sisters need you rested, not worn out. She studied him a long moment, then said softly, You've lost someone to men like Cross. I can see it. Cole's throat tightened. Not to a man like him, just to a world that didn't care if folks lived or died. But yes, I lost everything. Maybe that's why I can't stand by now. Understanding flickered in her eyes. Thank you, she said simply, and followed her sisters inside. Cole settled back onto the crate rifle laid across his knees and let the night stretch around him. The moon slid westward, and somewhere a lone wolf howled. He thought of the 3 women sleeping under his roof, and of Wade Cross, the kind of man who crushed anyone in his path. Cole turned the name over in his mind, like a whetstone against steel. He'd known such men in war and after. All of them had a weakness. Toward dawn, the desert wind whispered through the sage, carrying a promise of reckoning. Cole Hart kept his vigil no longer guarding only memories and regrets. He was a sentinel for something new. Just after noon, a smear of dust rose on the far horizon, 5 riders closing in with steady purpose. Cole spotted them from the barn roof where he was hammering shingles. The hammer felt suddenly heavy. Company he called down to Ruby, who was working the horses in the corral. She shaded her eyes, followed his gaze, and muttered a sharp curse. How many? 5. Cole climbed down fast. Round up your sisters. Get everyone inside. Ruby didn't argue. She vaulted the corral fence and sprinted for the house. Cole watched the riders advance, counting the minutes. 10, maybe less. He buckled on his gun belt, checked the Colt, and grabbed his rifle from the barn wall. Bell came from the garden, June from the chicken coop, both following Ruby indoors. Cole took his stand on the porch, rifle easy in his arms, but ready. The riders drew into clear view, hard-eyed men, trail-dusted and armed with the cold purpose of those who had come for blood. The lead rider was older, gray-stubbled, with eyes cold enough to tally every fence post for later burning. He reined in just beyond the gate. "Afternoon," he said, tipping his hat in a mock show of manners. "Name's Silas Knox. I'm looking for 3 women sisters. Heard they might have passed this way." "Plenty of folks ride through?" Hart answered evenly. "I don't keep a ledger." Silas's smile was a thin blade. "These you'd remember. They stole from Mr. Wade Cross himself money horses and left a man dead." "That, so." Cole kept his voice calm, though heat flared in his gut at the lies. "Sounds like dangerous women." "Indeed." Silas's gaze slid past Cole toward the house. "Mind if we water our stock?" "Long pull from town. Pump's there," Cole said, nodding toward the barn. "Help yourselves." 2 riders swung down, hands close to their holsters. The others spread out, trying to look easy while taking positions. Cole shifted his rifle just enough to show he'd noticed. "You live here alone?" Silas asked. "That's right. Big place for 1 man. I manage." Silas's eyes narrowed. "Funny thing, old Hank Crow back along the road said he saw 3 women riding this way during that storm a few nights back." Cole shrugged. "Hank drinks, sees ghosts in daylight. Maybe." Silas leaned forward in his saddle. "But Wade Cross likes every lead checked. And I like folks to know when they're on my land without an invite," Cole said, steady as a fence post. "You've watered your horses. Time to ride on." The air went tight. 1 man at the pump set a hand on his gun. Cole felt the moment balance like a knife. Then the house door opened. Belle Rowan stepped out. Cole's heart sank, but she didn't flinch. She walked onto the porch like a queen and stood at his side. "These men troubling you, husband?" she asked, her voice iron steady. Cole blinked, then caught on. "Just passing through deer." Silas fixed on Belle hawk sharp. "Ma'am, you look familiar. Have we met? I doubt it," Belle replied coolly. "I don't keep company with saddle trash." Color rose in Silas's face. Before he could retort, the door opened again, and Ruby Lane appeared wiping her hands on an apron Cole hadn't seen her wear. "Maggie, the soup's burning," she said with deliberate casualness, then eyed the strangers. "We having guests for supper?" "No," Cole said firmly. "These gentlemen were just leaving," Pity Ruby added with a bright, mocking smile. "I do enjoy company." Silas's jaw tightened. The picture before him, settled wife-sister at chores, clashed with whatever wanted poster Wade Cross had painted. "How long you ladies been here?" he asked. Sir Bell said, frost-sharp in her tone, "I don't recall my husband inviting you to question his family." "Family," Silas echoed, tasting the word. "And where might the 3rd sister be? Women like you generally travel in 3s. Before anyone spoke, June Pike's voice drifted from inside, sweet and steady, as she sang a hymn of grace and redemption. "That would be my youngest," Belle said. "She's delicate. We don't expose her to rough company." The slight hit home. Silas's hand slid toward his revolver, but Cole eased his rifle a fraction higher, and the man's fingers stilled. "As I said," Cole told him, "time to ride on, Mr. Cross doesn't take kindly to thieves," Silas warned. "He's offering a fine reward for news." "Then I hope you find your quarry somewhere else," Cole replied. Silas held his stare for a long, hard beat, then flicked his fingers. His men mounted slow, reluctant. As they wheeled away, Silas looked back. "We'll be around a while, in case you remember something." "I won't," Cole said. "No," Silas answered softly. "I don't suppose you will." They rode off, one man glancing back more than once. Cole waited until the dust cloud faded before lowering his rifle. "They'll return," Belle said quietly. "Yes." Cole turned to her, quick thinking on the husband bit. Ruby's idea, Belle admitted as her sister stepped out. She said if we looked like we belonged, they might doubt their tip. It bought us time, Cole said, but not much. They'll check the story. Learn I'm not wed or Cross himself will ride in. We should go, Belle started, but Cole cut her off. No, running now proves them right. We get ready instead. That afternoon he showed them his father Grant Boone's old armory, 2 spare rifles, a shotgun, boxes of ammunition. He watched them handle the weapons with practiced care. "Where'd you learn to shoot?" he asked, as Ruby worked the lever of a Winchester. "Our father taught us," she said. "Said frontier women must be their own defense. Smart man, he was." Ruby murmured, eyes dimming. Cross killed him too, not by bullet, but by burning his crops and breaking his heart. June cleaned a shotgun with sure hands. That's when Cross first noticed Mother at the funeral, said a widow that Pretty needed a man's protection. She refused. Politely at first, Belle added voice tight, then with finality. Wade Cross doesn't stomach refusal. Piece by piece, their story formed years of ruthless pressure and cruelty. Cole felt his resolve harden to iron. Men like Cross were a sickness on the land. By evening, Cole stood guard at the window while the sisters readied supper. Ruby hummed. Belle mended one of his shirts. June read aloud. To a passerby, it looked exactly like what they'd pretended to be a family. "There," Cole said suddenly, eyes narrowing at the darkening horizon. Cole Hart stayed fixed at the north window, eyes narrowing on a brief flicker of movement far out on the flats. "Riders," he said quietly. "North side." Belle Rowan joined him, the lamplight brushing her drawn face. "What do we do?" "We wait," Cole answered. "Let them think we're blind. When they move, we'll be ready." Supper was a strained affair. Every creak of the wind set nerves on edge. As night deepened, Cole snuffed each lamp until the house lay in velvet dark. "Belle back window. Ruby take the side. June stay low up front with me." They obeyed without a word. The moon was new, the yard black as coal, perfect cover for killers. "I'm scared," June whispered. "Good," Cole said. "Fear keeps you sharp. Breathe. Aim. Squeeze. Don't jerk. What if I have to? If I kill someone, then you live with it," he told her, steady as stone. "But you live." Hours crawled. Cole's eyes burned from peering into nothing. Then movement near the barn, a shadow where no shadow should be. "They're here," he breathed. Shapes spread like ink, 6 at least beyond the 5 Silas Knox had brought earlier. "No one fires till I do," Cole ordered. The intruders crept closer. He could pick out their silhouettes now, one man at the door, others ghosting toward windows. They expected sleepers, not an ambush. The lead man raised a boot to smash the door. Cole fired through the glass. The night detonated. Gunfire ripped from every side as the sisters answered with their own shots. Glass shattered. Board splintered. Cole worked the rifle lever muzzle flashes, his only light. Beside him, June braced the shotgun, each pull of the trigger true, despite the recoil that rocked her back. From the barn, Ruby's voice rang out. "They're flanking." Cole spotted 2 men darting along the barn wall to cut off the side window. "Hold your ground," he barked, grabbing his second rifle and diving through the front door. Bullets hissed as he rolled behind the water trough and found a clean line on the barn. 1 shot down. Another down. More shadows surged forward, seemingly born of the dark. Cole Bell's warning cracked through the din. He spun and fired from the hip, dropping a man creeping up behind him. The fight burned fierce, but brief. At last, the attackers broke their retreat, pounding across the hardpan. Cole stayed low, counting heartbeats, waiting for a feint. "All clear," he called. "We're fine. Bell answered. Glasscut's nothing worse. They regrouped inside, lighting a single lamp. Ruby's arm bore a grazing wound. June's palms were slashed by broken glass, but they stood alive. Outside, bodies lay where they'd fallen. Wade Cross will come himself next, Bell said grimly. I know. Cole fed fresh shells into his rifle. But he'll find more than he bargains for. Ruby gave a wild, defiant laugh. Think you can handle us all? She asked again, but now it sounded like a rallying cry. Together, Cole said, meeting each of their eyes. June surprised them with her steady voice. Then we make our stand. No more running. This is our home now. Our home. The word settled in Cole's chest like a vow. Whatever storm Wade Cross brought, they would face it as one. The desert wind carried the tang of gun smoke into the stars, sealing the night's grim victory. The ranch was no longer just a refuge. It had become a fortress. The days after the gunfight passed in a strange suspension. They buried the dead in a distant gully. Cole insisted on it, though the sisters would have left the bodies for the buzzards. Side by side, they strengthened the ranch, mending fences and shoring up walls. Between these preparations, something gentler began to root. Cole watched Ruby teach June how to tame the shotgun's kick her touchlight, but sure. He saw Belle counting cartridges with fierce focus, her green eyes softening when she thought no one looked. The family they had pretended to be for Silas Knox's benefit was slowly becoming real. You're staring? Ruby teased one afternoon, catching him watching her work, the horses, auburn hair slipping loose, sunlight glinting on the sweat along her collarbone. Just thinking, Cole said, not looking away. Dangerous habit, she shot back, stepping closer with that familiar spark. About what? About how different this place feels with you three here. Her teasing faded into something tender. Different good or different bad? Good, he said softly. Though I shouldn't admit it. Why not? Because when this is over, you'll leave. And I'll have to get used to quiet again. Ruby reached out fingertips, brushing his hand on the rail. Who says we're leaving? That evening, the air at supper carried more than the tension of waiting for Wade Cross. June served bread burnt on one side. Cole ate it gladly, earning her shy smile. Belle found his mother's recipe box and tried a stew heavy with salt. Ruby added wild onions from the field. We're awful cooks, Belle laughed, and for the first time her laughter rang free, lighting her face. You're learning, Cole said, spooning up another bite. Besides, I've eaten worse, liar, Ruby said fondly. But a sweet one. Night settled. They took their posts in silence, but the darkness stayed calm. It was June who finally spoke. Tell us about your family. You know all of ours, but we know so little of yours. Cole hesitated, then began. He told them of his father, Grant Boone, a stern man hardened by the Mexican War, yet gentle with his kin. Of his mother, Lila Boone, who could turn a bare cabin into a home. And of his younger brother, Cole Briggs, a carefree spirit, forever landing in scrapes. Then cholera came through in 71, Cole said quietly. Cole Hart spoke quietly, his voice carrying in the stillness. My brother Cole Briggs was first. Fought the sickness near a week, but he was always slight. Pa followed 2 days later. Ma nursed them till she was worn to nothing. When they were gone, she just let go. I'm sorry, June Pike whispered. Don't be. They're at peace, Cole said. It's the living that carry the weight. Is that why you stayed out here alone? Belle Rowan asked. Carrying it, partly. But mostly I couldn't see the point of leaving. This was home, even empty. Still is. Not empty anymore, Ruby Lane said firmly. The quiet between them swelled with unspoken promise. Then Belle stiffened. Riders northwest. They rushed to their posts only to find it a false alarm, just cowboys riding to town drunk and singing. The tension broke in shaky laughter. "I need some air?" Ruby said, heading for the door. "I'll come," Cole answered, taking his rifle. They walked to the corral beneath a sky jeweled with stars. Ruby leaned against the fence, eyes lifted. "I used to dream about a life like this, a ranch horse's honest work, before Wade Cross burned it all away." "You could still have it," Cole said carefully. "Here." She turned moonlight bright in her eyes. "Is that an offer?" "Maybe. Would you consider it with you?" She stepped closer, warmth brushing against him. "I might." "Ruby," he began, but she laid a finger to his lips. "I know. We're in danger. This isn't the time. You barely know us. All true. But Cole, we might not see tomorrow. Cross could ride in at dawn with 50 men. So why not take what happiness we can tonight?" She rose on her toes and kissed him fierce sweet. Cole's rifle clattered against the fence as he pulled her in, feeling like a man waking after years of silence. They parted to find Belle watching, arms crossed, a faint smile on her face. "June's asking for you, Ruby," she said mildly. "Something about the book she's reading." Ruby squeezed Cole's hand before returning to the house. Belle stayed, taking her sister's place by the fence. "She's half in love with you, you know," Belle said matter-of-factly. "Has been since that first night you offered us your parents' room." "Belle, I'm not warning you off. Lord knows Ruby deserves some happiness. We all do. Just be careful with her heart. It's more fragile than she lets on." "What about yours?" Cole asked quietly. Her smile was wistful. "Mine's too full of responsibility to hold much else. Keep them safe, Cole. That's all I need. I'll keep all of you safe," he promised. "You can't promise that. Watch me." Morning brought a different kind of strain. Ruby hummed over breakfast, throwing glances that made Cole's collar feel tight. June noticed, of course she did, and her knowing smile made him fumble his cup. Belle alone stayed unchanged, cleaning weapons eyes, always on the horizon. They reinforced the barn through the day. Cole worked alongside Ruby. Their hands brushed as they reached for tools. Shoulders touched every casual contact charged. "You're not paying attention," Ruby teased when he hammered his thumb instead of the nail. "Whose fault is that?" he growled, sucking the sore thumb. "Mine." "I hope," she answered with a low, delighted laugh. Then June appeared in the doorway. Riders coming from town. They moved fast, but Cole soon recognized the lead horseman, Doc Rufus Lane from Millfield, with half the town council trailing him. "Cole Hart, Doc," called, stopping well back. "Mind if we come closer? Got business to discuss." Cole lowered his rifle, still alert. "Come ahead slow." The group dismounted at the gate. Doc Lane's storekeeper, Amos Lane, and to Cole's surprise, Judge Eli Frost. "Dead men scattered on your property," Doc said without ceremony. "Bullet holes everywhere." "Care to explain men trespassed?" Cole replied evenly. "They paid the price trespassers earn. They were Wade Cross's men," Judge Frost observed, eyes flicking to the 3 women behind Cole. "I'm guessing they're the reason." "They're under my protection," Cole said flatly. "So it's true," Amos Lane said. "These are the women Cross claims murdered a man and robbed him. The only thing they're guilty of is staying alive," Cole said. "Cross murdered their mother when she rejected him." Judge Frost studied the sisters. "You willing to swear that in court I didn't see it, but I believe them?" Cole said. "I saw it," June said suddenly. She stepped forward, voice steady, though her hands trembled. "I saw Wade Cross beat our mother Ada Hart to death when she refused him. I saw him turn to us with her blood on his hands. We ran because we knew no one would believe us over him." "I believe you," Judge Frost said quietly. "I've suspected Cross for years. Folks have just been too scared to speak." "So what now?" Belle asked, warily. "Now we've got a problem," Doc Lane said. "Cross has gathered a small army. Word is he's riding here himself, maybe tomorrow. He's telling everyone you murdered his foreman and need to be put down." "Let him come," Ruby said fiercely. "With 50 men." Amos Lane shook his head. "That'll be a slaughter. Not if the town stands with them," Judge Frost said slowly. He looked around. "I'm tired of Wade Cross trampling the law. If we make a stand here, others may join." "Might isn't much comfort," Doc Lane warned. "It's better than nothing," Cole said. "We're not running. This is our home." "Our home?" Ruby echoed, sliding her hand into his. June moved to his other side. Belle stood behind them like a sentry. A family forged in fire and danger, but a family all the same. Judge Frost gave a slow nod. "Then we'd best prepare. I'll ride back to Millfield, see who's willing to stand for justice. Doc, you stay, your skills will be needed." As the delegation rode off, leaving Doc Lane behind, Cole felt the coming storm's weight. Wade Cross would bring more than gunmen. He'd bring pride, fury, and the full reach of his power. "You can still leave," Cole told the sisters that night as they kept watch. "Take my fastest horses. Ride for California. Start new where Cross can't touch you." "And leave you to face him alone?" Belle asked, shaking her head. "We don't abandon family." "Family." That word made every risk worth it. "Then we make ready," Cole said. "Tomorrow, one way or another, this ends." Ruby leaned into his shoulder. June hummed softly while cleaning her rifle. Belle kept her eyes on the dark horizon. Outside, the desert held its breath for the war to come, but inside the small ranch house, love and resolve burned hotter than fear. Cole Hart steadied his rifle and let the thought settle like iron. Let Wade Cross come. He would learn what happened when a man threatened those Cole Hart loved. The long, empty years were over. Tomorrow they would fight not just to live, but for a future they'd only begun to dream of. By midday, the word had raced across the territory. Wade Cross had set a bounty of $500 on each sister's head, dead or alive. Cole spotted 3 separate groups of bounty hunters drifting past the ranch, like vultures circling but not daring to strike. "They're waiting," Belle. Rowan said from her station at the window, green eyes sharp. "Waiting for Cross to ride in with the main force." "Let them wait," Cole replied, checking his ammunition for the dozenth time. Judge Eli Frost should be back soon with whoever he can rally. But as the sun climbed, no allies appeared. Doc Rufus Lane's sleeves rolled, busied himself with bandages and salves. "Fear's a mighty leash," he muttered. "Cross has had this county by the throat for years." Ruby Lane paced like a wildcat, restless energy sparking off her. "We should hit first, take the fight to them." "That's suicide," Belle said sharply. "We hold the ranch and make them come to us. And let them choke us in," Ruby challenged. "We'll be rats in a trap." Enough. Cole cut in firm as a hammer strike. "We stay with the plan. This land's defensible. We know every inch of it." June Pike. Quiet all morning suddenly stiffened. "Someone's coming single rider." They fell into place, but the lone figure waved a white cloth. As he neared, Cole recognized Gage Hollis, the neighboring rancher who'd always kept his distance. Cole Hart Gage called, halting, well clear of the fence. "Got a message from Wade Cross. Says he wants to talk, just talk." Since when does Wade Cross talk instead of take? Cole called back. Since he figured half the territory's watching. He's offering terms the women come in peace, and you walk away. Ruby's voice flared hot. "Here's my answer." Cole touched her arm, steadying her. "Tell Cross if he wants words he rides here himself, and alone. Otherwise there's nothing to discuss." Gage shrugged. "Your funeral," he said, and wheeled his horse back into the dust. "You're not really," Belle began. "It tells us plenty," Cole said. "He's worried about how this looks. This isn't just a hunt now, it's about his grip on the land." Doc Lane nodded. "If Cross shows weakness, others might stand up to him. He can't allow that." The hour dragged like a slow fuse. Cole placed everyone with care. Bell guarding the rear. Ruby crouched in the barn loft with a sweeping shot of the yard, June inside with Doc Lane to hold the heart of the house. Cole took the porch, eyes fixed on the distant ridge where dark specks gathered like thunderclouds. Lord above Doc whispered, peering through the slit of a shutter. Must be 40 men. 38, Cole corrected after counting twice. And Wade Cross himself, see him on that black stallion? Even from a quarter mile, the man stood out tall, broad, dressed in city finery, sitting his horse like a general poised for war. They're moving, Ruby called from the loft. But Cross didn't charge. Instead, a dozen riders peeled off and stopped just beyond rifle range while Wade Cross advanced with 2 guards at his side. Cole Hart, he boomed his voice, carrying like rolling thunder. I'm a reasonable man. Let's settle this like civilized folk. Cole stepped forward onto the porch rifle, plane in sight. Nothing civilized about chasing women across the West. They're thieves and killers, Cross said smoothly. They murdered my foreman, stole cash and horses. The law demands justice. Whose law? Cole shot back. The kind you buy by the barrel. Cross's jaw hardened. Careful, Hart. You're harboring fugitives. That makes you their accomplice. The only crime here is a man who beats women to death and calls it his right. Cole said, his voice ringing so all could hear. Tell them about Ada Hart Cross. Tell them how she died. Lies Cross barked, spun by desperate criminals. Bring me those women and maybe I let you live. Movement flickered in Cole's sight, Ruby high in the loft, her rifle trained on Cross. His guards twitched hands near pistols. I'd advise your men to keep their fingers clear, Cole warned. My people don't miss. Cross's eyes swept the barn and house, reading the hidden guns. You can't win this. Look around 40 men to your handful. 4 people defending their home count for more than 40 hired guns, Cole answered. Home. Cross barked a bitter laugh. This isn't their home. They're trash I should have put down months ago, just like their whore mother. The retort came not from Cole, but from inside. A single shot cracked the night. June Pike, gentle. June had fired the bullet, kicking dirt inches from Cross's stallion. The horse reared, nearly throwing him. The next one goes through your heart, June called, her voice like steel. Don't you dare speak of our mother. Cross fought for control, face dark with fury. You just signed your own death warrant, girl. Get off my land, Cole said low and final. While you still can. Cross stared long and hard, then wheeled his stallion. 1 hour, Hart. 1 hour to reconsider. After that, I'll burn this place to ash with all of you inside. As his column pulled back, the thunder of hooves faded until fresh riders approached from the opposite direction. Cole's heart lifted at the sight of Judge Eli Frost, only to sink when he counted just 6 men at his back. Judge Eli Frost swung down first, his coat dusty from the hard ride. 6 men against 40 isn't much, he admitted as they dismounted. But these are steady men. Zeke Porter, Finn Red Buck, and Jed Crow Rex Crane, and young Eli Dove from the telegraph office. Cole Hart knew each by reputation honest, reliable, if not hardened gun hands. Still, they had come, and that meant something. Grateful to you all, Cole said, voice low but sure. I can't promise you'll walk away. Zeke Porter, a gray-bearded farmer, spat tobacco juice and growled, Wade Cross has bled us dry for years. Time somebody stood tall. They had less than an hour to brace for the storm. Cole placed the newcomers with care. Buck and Jed Crow up in the barn loft, with Ruby Lane Zeke Porter and Finn Red at the side windows, Rex Crane on the house roof with a heavy buffalo rifle. Eli. Dove barely 18, and pale with nerves, stayed inside with spare ammunition running supplies where needed. Belle Rowan caught Cole's arm and drew him aside. "It's not enough," she whispered. "We should ride now, while Cross waits." "No more running," Cole said, eyes like flint. "We stand." She searched his face, then nodded. "Then we make it count." Reaching up, she surprised him with a quick kiss on the cheek. "You're a good man, Cole Hart. My sister chose well." The last light drained from the sky far too soon. As the horizon bled red, Wade Cross's force began to move 40 men fanning out to ring the ranch. Remember, Cole called to every corner, "Make each shot count. Don't waste a bullet." The attack began with probing fire testing their defenses. Cole held until the right moment. Beside him, June Pike breathed steady shotgun poised. Then Cross showed himself keeping well back. "Last chance, Hart," his voice thundered. "Send those women out and the rest of you live." "Go to hell," Ruby shouted from the barn. "So be it." Cross raised a hand and slashed it down. The world erupted. Gunfire flashed from every side. Cole worked the Winchester by pure instinct, aim-fire lever again. June's shotgun roared, dropping a man who lunged too close to the porch. "The barn," someone shouted. "They're hitting the barn," Cole glimpsed Ruby and the Crow brothers firing fast, but the pressure there was fierce. Cross had read the ground well. "June, hold here." Cole ordered, sprinting across open yard with bullets whining past his ears. He dove through the barn door as another wave crashed in. Inside was chaos, close-quarter fury. Cole swung his rifle like a club. When men pushed too near Ruby at his back, her battle cry sharp and fearless. One of the Crow brothers was down, blood pooling dark. "We can't hold," Ruby gasped, reloading with bloody fingers. "We don't have to," Cole said through clenched teeth. "Just long enough," for what she demanded, but kept firing. Outside, the fight thundered on. From the rooftop, Rex Crane's buffalo rifle cracked like thunder. Bell flashed at windows, firing and vanishing like a wraith. Then hoofbeats. Many hoofbeats. A great shout split the din for justice, for the law. Marshal Zane Porter burst into view with 20 deputies slamming into Cross's men from behind. The tide turned in an instant. Attackers caught between ranch defenders and lawmen. The hunters were suddenly the hunted. "Help's here," Eli Dove cried from the house. Only later would Cole learn that Judge Frost's telegram had reached the territorial governor and set Marshal Porter riding. In the moment, all that mattered was the roar of allies at their side. The fight collapsed into a rout. Cross's hired guns threw down weapons or fled into the dark. Cole stepped from the barn, supporting a blood-streaked Ruby just in time to see Wade Cross himself spurring to escape. It was June Pike, gentle, soft-spoken June, who stepped into his path, shotgun leveled. "For our mother," she said, and pulled the trigger. Cross's black stallion screamed and crashed, pinning him. He lay cursing, leg twisted, as Marshal Porter's men closed in. Wade Cross, the marshal, declared, "You're under arrest for murder conspiracy and whatever else the judge cares to name." As dusk fell over the scarred ranch, Cole surveyed the field. One of the Crow brothers was gone, others wounded, but they had survived. More than that, they had won. "It's over," Belle whispered, still half astonished. "No," Cole said, pulling Ruby close, despite her bleeding arm. "It's just beginning." He looked at the three sisters, brave, beautiful, battered, but unbroken, his family now forged in fire and sealed in blood. The ranch bore its scars, proudly bullet-pocked walls, blood-darkened soil, the barn door hanging crooked. Cole stood among them as Doc Rufus Lane finished bandaging Ruby's arm, a wound she'd hidden until the fight was done. "Keep it clean," Doc warned. No heavy work for at least 2 weeks. 2 weeks, Ruby protested. We've got fences to mend, stock to tend. All of it can wait until you're healed, Cole said firmly. Belle and June nodded in agreement, forming a united front that made Ruby scowl. Marshal Porter approached, notebook in hand. I'll need statements from all of you for the trial. Cross is already spinning tales, claiming he was only reclaiming stolen property. Let Wade Cross claim whatever lies he wants. Belle Rowan said, her voice cold as a desert night. We'll tell the truth, and this time people will listen. Marshal Zane Porter had turned Millfield's courthouse into a temporary stronghold. Wade Cross lay in a cell there, leg-splinted shackles clanking when he shifted. The next morning, Cole Hart drove the sisters into town in a wagon ringed by armed deputies. News of Cross's capture had spread like brush fire. Folks crowded the dusty streets, some shouting murderers, while others answered heroes, about time. Somebody stood up to him. The split cut straight through the town like a canyon. Inside the courthouse, a restless crowd milled about half-defiant supporters of Cross, half demanding justice. Judge Eli Frost met them at the door. This will get ugly, he warned. Cross hired the sharpest lawyers money can buy. They'll try to shred your story in court. Let them try, Ruby Lane said, chin high, despite the healing wound in her arm. The preliminary hearing was set for the following week. Cole insisted the sisters stay on the ranch where deputies kept watch, and tempers in town couldn't reach them. Evenings were quiet, but Tot spent cleaning rifles and talking through testimony. One lamplit night, June Pike startled them all. I kept a journal, she said softly. Every visit Cross made, every threat. I hid it when we fled, dates, names, what he did to Mama. It's all there. Belle blinked. June, why keep that from us? I was terrified, June whispered. If he'd found it, he'd have killed us for sure. But now, we need it. Where, Cole asked gently. In our old ranch house, she said. Root cellar behind a loose stone. The others exchanged grim looks. Their old place lay 2 days' ride deep in Cross's territory. But that journal could nail him to the wall. I'll go, Cole said. Not without me. Ruby shot back her eyes, daring him to argue. By morning, the choice was made, they all went. Marshal Porter sent 2 deputies to ride guard. The journey crackled with tension. Every dust plume on the horizon set hearts hammering. But they reached the charred remains of the Hart homestead, unchallenged. The house was only black timbers and ashes now, yet the barn and root cellar still stood. June led them down into the cool, musty, dark counting stones until she stopped. Here, she said, prying one loose. Behind it lay a leather-bound journal wrapped in oilcloth pages filled with her careful hand. Cole opened it by lantern light. Entry after entry told of Cross's stalking threats, and finally the brutal murder of Ada Hart. His jaw tightened with each word. This changes everything, one deputy breathed. It's proof stretching back years. They hurried back to Millfield only to find new trouble. Cross's lawyers had been busy seeding rumors that the sisters were schemers who'd seduced and murdered his foreman for money. A jeering mob gathered outside the courthouse, some hurling insults. Don't, Belle warned, when Cole's hand twitched toward his gun. That's what they want, blood in the street. Inside, Judge Frost scanned the journal, his face hardening. This is damning, he said. But they'll scream forgery. We'll need witnesses. I know some, June said quietly. Women he threatened. Maybe they'll speak now that he's locked up. And speak they did. Over the next days, widows and ranchers came forward, the widow Thompson, whose husband had died after refusing to sell water rights, the Martinez family driven off their land, Sarah Palmer, who still bore scars from Cross's violence. Their courage, sparked by June's journal, painted a long, ugly history of terror. When the trial opened on a blistering morning, the courthouse overflowed. Wade Cross sat at the defense table, expensively dressed and smiling like a man still certain of victory. 3 lawyers from the Capitol sat beside him, sharp-eyed as hawks. Cole stayed close to the sisters in the packed gallery, feeling the tension in their clasped hands. Ruby's fingers tightened on his as the prosecutor began. Each page of June's journal was read aloud. With every entry, Cross's polished mask cracked. Then came testimony. Belle Rowan took the stand, first voice firm, as she described their mother's murder. The defense lawyer tried to twist her words. "Isn't it true? You and your sisters were desperate for money?" "We had our ranch," Belle answered calmly. "We needed nothing from Wade Cross. A failing ranch heavily mortgaged. Didn't Cross offer to help?" "He offered to make us his mistresses," Belle said, each word ringing like iron. "When we refused, he killed our mother." The questioning turned vicious, but Belle never wavered. Then Ruby faced the court, fierce, defiant, matching every sneer with steady fire. When the defense hinted she had courted Cross's attention, Ruby gave a sharp, scornful laugh. "I wouldn't invite that man's attention if he were the last soul on earth." She called him a monster, who thought money gave him the right to take anything he pleased. But it was June Pike's quiet strength on the witness stand that finally broke Wade Cross's power. The timid girl Cole Hart had first met became unshakable as she opened her leather journal and read aloud. Each entry cut through the hushed courtroom like a blade so vivid that women in the gallery wept. "And then he struck Mama again," June said, voice trembling but clear. She fell and didn't get up. "There was so much blood. He turned to us and said we belonged to him now. That's when we ran." Fiction. Cross's attorney Pemberton barked. Pure fiction scribbled later to prop up these wild claims. "Then explain this," the prosecutor countered, holding up a newly seized ledger from Cross's own office. Inside were payments to hired thugs on the very dates June had recorded beatings and threats. The courtroom erupted. Wade Cross surged to his feet, chains rattling, cursing, until deputies forced him down. His mask of refinement tore away, exposing the brute beneath. "They're mine," he roared. "I paid for them. Their father owed me everything." Those words sealed his fate. The jury needed barely an hour guilty of murder conspiracy and intimidation. Judge Eli Frost's sentence was swift death by hanging within the month. When the sisters and Cole stepped outside, the mood of Millfield had turned. Strangers reached to clasp their hands, thanking them for courage. Women who had long suffered in silence sobbed with relief. Men once cowed by Cross's wealth and cruelty now hailed the victory of justice. "It's over," June whispered in awe as they reached their wagon. "No," Cole said, gently helping her aboard. "Now the real work begins, healing, building a life that lasts." They returned home at sunset. Though bullet scars and blackened earth still marked the ranch, hope seemed to glow in the very boards. That night, they sat on the porch beneath an ocean of stars, Ruby Lane, leaning against Cole's shoulder in a sling, Belle Rowan holding June close. Peace, real and deep, settled over them. "What now?" Ruby asked at last. "Now, we rebuild," Cole said. "Make this place what it was meant to be, a true home." Together, Ruby's voice held more than one question. Together, he promised kissing her hair. Belle smiled, her face softening. "Good. I've already been thinking about expanding the horse operation. With Cross's land broken up, we could buy water rights, bring in better breeding stock." Ruby laughed. Some things never change. And some things shouldn't, Cole said, looking at each of them, his family tempered by fire and stronger for it. Weeks later, Millfield gathered in the fading light to witness Wade Cross meet justice. The gallows stood stark against a copper sky. Even shackled Cross's eyes burned with hatred as they found the sisters in the crowd. "Any last words?" Marshal Zane Porter asked. Cross sneered. "This town will regret this day. You think you've won anything you stole. You murdered. You built nothing but fear," Belle cut in her voice, carrying. Cross's face twisted with rage, but the hangman's hood silenced him. When the trapdoor fell and the rope snapped tight, a collective breath swept through the crowd. It was finished. On the quiet ride back to the ranch, June said softly, "I don't feel free yet. Is that wrong?" "No," Belle answered. "Freedom isn't just about Cross being gone. It's learning to live without fear again. That takes time." In the months that followed, the territory changed. Cross's vast holdings were sold to the families he had ruined. Corrupt allies faced trial or fled. Judge Frost worked tirelessly to set honest law on firm ground. Life at the Hart Ranch blossomed. Ruby's arm healed, and her natural gift with horses drew ranchers from miles around. Belle proved a master of business, securing water rights and turning plans into reality. June turned the barn loft into a cheerful schoolroom, coaxing laughter from children who had known only hardship. And Cole, once a solitary man, found himself at the heart of a family. On a bright autumn morning, he and Ruby were married in the open air, with Belle and June beside them, and half of Millfield as witness. Ruby wore her mother's gown, lovingly altered, and when she smiled at him, Cole thought his chest might burst. That evening, the desert wind swept across their land, carrying away the last echoes of fear and violence. In their place, it left promise of a home secure of love, strong enough to outlast every storm. They were a family now, and that was more than enough. "Think you can handle me?" Ruby Lane whispered, as they exchanged vows, echoing the very challenge that had first sparked their story. "For the rest of my life," Cole Hart vowed. That winter settled softly across the high desert, bringing gentle rains and no hint of the storms they had once endured. The ranch thrived. Horses, Ruby trained, sold at fine prices, and June Pike's growing school soon needed its own building in town. One evening, as the family gathered for supper, Belle Rowan startled them all. "I've been writing to someone," she admitted, a shy color rising in her cheeks. "Zeke Porter from the next county. He's a widower with 2 small children. He'd like to court me." Ruby grinned. "The lawyer who helped during Wade Cross's trial. I wondered why you kept making those extra trips to Millfield." "He's a good man," Cole said warmly. "You deserve happiness, too." Belle looked down, her voice quiet but sure. "I spent so long protecting everyone else, I nearly forgot I might want something for myself." "Then it's time to remember," June said firmly. Spring brought still more changes. Belle married Zeke in a sunlit ceremony at the ranch, his shy youngsters quickly embracing their new family. June, no longer the frightened girl who had once fled through a storm, accepted a full teaching post at Millfield's new schoolhouse, though she still chose to live at the ranch. One morning, Cole found Ruby behind the barn, pale and queasy. Seeing his worry, she managed a weak smile. "Don't look so rattled. It's natural when you're expecting." Joy hit him like a stampede. "A baby. By harvest." "Doc Rufus Lane thinks so," she said, resting her head against his chest. "Are you happy?" "Happy doesn't begin to cover it." That night they shared the news. Belle cried. June laughed. Everyone spoke at once, planning a nursery in Cole's parents' old room, choosing baby names, sewing tiny clothes. Later, under a silver moon, Ruby pressed Cole's hand to her still flat belly. Good, she teased, because I plan to fill this ranch with children and laughter until you long for the quiet you used to have. Never, Cole said. Those empty days are gone for good. In town, where Wade Cross's grand house had stood, a new courthouse rose a sign that justice and honest law had finally taken root. The sisters who had arrived as hunted fugitives were now community leaders, their courage inspiring others to stand tall. One soft evening, June joined them on the porch, a notebook in her lap. "I've begun writing our story," she said. "Not for the papers, just so we remember." "Read it," Belle urged, stepping outside with Zeke. June's gentle voice carried through the quiet as she told of loss and terror of a desperate flight that ended in unexpected sanctuary of love and justice hard won. When she finished, the silence brimmed with gratitude. "It still needs an ending," Zeke remarked. "It's not finished," June said with a smile. "We're still writing it." Cole looked at his wife, at the women who had become true kin, and at the land that once echoed with emptiness, but now pulsed with life. "Then we'll write it as we go," he said. "Day by day, year by year, together." "Together," Ruby echoed, squeezing his hand. The desert breeze whispered through sage and cottonwood, carrying only promise. Now no fear, no loneliness, just the scent of all their tomorrows. From the barn came the soft nicker of horses. From inside the house rose laughter as Belle teased Zeke and June jotted notes for her next lesson. This, Cole realized, was the prize they had fought for, not merely survival, but a life rich with love and hope. Ruby paused at the doorway, moonlight silvering her hair. "You never really answered me that night," she said softly. "Not directly." Cole drew her close, remembering every mile of their journey. "I think I've proven my answer." Ruby's laughter sparkled like starlight. "Yes, Cole Hart, you surely have." They went inside to warmth and family, leaving the ghosts of the past to fade in the desert wind. The Hart Ranch stood strong beneath a sky thick with stars, no longer a hiding place, but a living testament to courage and devotion. In years to come, when June's pupils asked about bravery, she would tell this story. When Ruby and Cole's children wanted to know how to face bullies, she would share these memories. When Belle's stepchildren needed proof that family is built by love, not blood, she would recall the night 3 desperate sisters found refuge and a lonely cowboy found purpose. If this story has touched your heart, I invite you to stay with us to discover more true tales of the Wild West. Stories that honor resilience, tenderness, and the spirit that God placed in those who blazed the trail. Subscribe, share. Leave your thoughts in the comments, and join us once again to journey across this untamed land. Thank you.